Hello everyone and welcome back to PSGL Round 2 here in Silverstone, my home GP, my home race as well. In fact, I actually lived in Silverstone Village as well for about 6 months. So, getting into this video has been a little bit delayed just purely because I've been in Germany from the Thursday after recording or racing this race until the Sunday as well, and of course I was racing WOR. So now this is the first opportunity I've really had to sit down and edit and commentate this video, and also the WOR video will be following shortly, and we'll be getting back into a more usual routine with uploading fairly soon after the race. So going into Silverstone here today, we're in Q1. You can see we're up on our Delta, and we're just going to be trying to get through Q1 like we normally would be trying to do as well. And yeah, final lap here, 0.7 up on the Delta, P11 at the moment, so realistically we do need to improve as we pick up a bit of understeer going through Mags and Beckett's. We're hanging to the right hand side of the straight, purely just to avoid the bumps on the left hand side of the circuit as well, and you're going to see this going down into Brooklands, that we stay to the middle of the track to avoid bumps, and into turn 1 as well. Into the final chicane, we actually lock up the rear compound of tyres, because we tried to move our brake bars forward, but for some reason it didn't activate on my steering wheel, as you're going to hear right now.
Mate, my brake bias did not change into the final corner. I always go up 1% into the final corners, and it didn't change.
Yeah, so was able to get through Q1, but that is definitely not ideal, and yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing, to be honest, that sometimes it doesn't go up on the percentage on the brake bias. It's not really a game fault, it's more of a technical thing with the wheel that I'm using. But with that being said, we was able to scrape through Q1 nevertheless, and on our worn tyre run, we're able to go fastest. Really? So yeah, that was a nice feeling. We was able to get the lap pretty well hooked up, and something that I've been struggling with generally on this game is tyre warm-up at the moment. And definitely, I think that's the biggest area for me to improve going forward. Of course, we can edit the setup, of course, we can do other stuff like this, but I think for me, getting the tyre in a better working window before starting my qualifying lap will yield massive more potential than, to be honest, even a setup difference. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm trying to improve quite a lot going forward these next few races. It's quite difficult. It's something that I've also faced on my previous years on the F1 games, and I also faced this when I did real life racing with testing British F4 and I raced F1600, that because I have a really smooth driving style, that I don't really put that much load into the tyre, that it's quite difficult for me to get that temperature in the right window in qualifying, and I'm never really fighting the car. You know, if you see my driving style, I'm very smooth on my steering wheel and I'm not really fighting the car, I'm more guiding the car through the apex. That is really good on a racing stint, it's really good in the rain, but something that can yield not the best results in a qualifying hot lap. So it's definitely something I'm looking to improve, as this game really requires a bit more energy in the tyre during the qualifying lap, and you can exploit that to get more lap time potential. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'm analysing and working on, and I think will be my biggest form of improvement over these next few weeks. Across the line though, first lap was able to go into P6 with 3.67. In the final lap of Q2 though, I have a PC issue, and you can see on the bottom right hand side of the screen my webcam is lagging, and you won't actually be able to see it because of course I'm only recording in FPS, a lower FPS, I think 60. But I had the same issue in WOR Brazil, and you're going to hear me right now mention it.
Well, it's fixed itself, but I've got a lot of time to find out.
So now you can hear me say it's fixed itself, but I have a lot of time to find, because I lost about a tenth in the first sector overall compared to what I should have and could have done. But yeah, I had the same issue in WOR Brazil, that when my webcam was becoming laggy and stuttery like this, I also was having audio problems and also stuttering on the screen, that of course doesn't really get shown in the footage. I'm not exactly too sure why, and I'm not really too sure why this issue is happening repetitively, but yeah, it's definitely also something to look into fix, because it's not fun and it's not good having these happen at random moments. Into the final apex though, and we make a bit of a mistake running up to the line, but
it's so bot. I need to find what's happening.
We was able to go through nevertheless on our first lap in Q2. So a shame, annoying, very annoying about the issues that we faced there in the final run with the stuttering. hampered our lap time potential. But nevertheless, here in Q3, our first run on worn tyres has put us P9 at the moment, and we are one of the only people without having 2 sets of soft tyres going into this Q3 session. So that being said though, it is time to hook up the lap. It is time to define our grid position here for the race in Silverstone. Just after the curb starts on the left hand side, hit the brakes, let the car rotate, bring the car far right as possible, and letting the car just dance around the apex. It was pretty good, not perfect, not ideal throughout the first sector split though, but we are able to be just over a tenth and a half up with a 2-2-4 split. So yeah, about half a tenth away from where I really want to be in this point in time. And you can see just not really getting the rear stability that I would love to have, the purchase grip, traction, ability and confidence to grab into the racing surface of the road and get the traction out of the apex. Into Mags and Beckett's though is a fantastic opportunity to make up some time, and then through the right, through the left, still keeping it flat and just downshifting the sip, but again picking up the understeer, and it's just not hooking up perfectly. It's not bad, but it's not great, and in a field this competitive, great is the only option to succeed. And through into Stone. Final apexes of the lap, 2.5 tenths up, an opportunity to gain more time, and we're just again understeering past the apex, so we just didn't get the tyres in a perfect working range. 3 tenths up across the line, and we go to P9 with a 2.38. So yeah, about a tenth away from where I should have been. But with that all being said, the lap was not horrendous, and we are building really consistent results in qualifying and in the races alike. With that being said, it is wet, it is damp. There was a split strategy between the wet tyres and the intermediate, and we have got a phenomenal start, already getting up and past and to P7 around the outside of Declan Barrett is on our right hand side here, and we're going to try and go around the outside of him. He's on the intermediate tyres, so for this moment in time we should have the grip advantage being on the full wets. From what the game said, it was going to be full wets for quite a bit of time, and I was not aware that basically the wets are useless on this game, and that is also my mistake for not preparing in that way and to understand this fact. So yeah, I take it on my shoulders, but yeah, to put it bluntly, the wets are practically useless on this game cycle, and yeah, if you see a track that is wet condition after 1.5, 2 laps, the intermediates
just updated with tyre deck
are going to be the same pace, if not faster, as you're going to see that starting to play out over these next few laps here in Silverstone. But for lap 1 and in the race as well, I was unaware of that fact and aiming to maximize my grip potential on a set of wets and hoping that the rain would stay long enough that we can maximize this tire and then go towards an intermediate later. It's pretty difficult to get a zero stop to work on this year's game on both the full wets and the intermediates, and yeah, so I was aware that at some point we're going to have to make a pit stop to go optimally fastest throughout the race. So what I wanted to do was get these wet tires to a point that I could slap on the intermediates and go to the end therefore out, and it was going to get drier and drier as the race went on, so I knew the tyre wear was going to be very high with intermediates on the drying track at the end of the race, so I was taking that into account with my strategy. Lap 3 though, we have held track position, but we have got Declan Barrett and Lucas Blakely right up behind us, and we're asking for the battery of Shanaka Clay as well, and we're calling that imminent information because we are now needing to get past him, and I felt really confident, really fast in these full wet conditions with these compounded tyres as well. And you can see Thomas is 1.5 seconds up the road, my teammate of course in Sauber, and now going through the chicane. We're all over the back of Shanaka Clay, I should say, and you can see his car is sliding around, whereas we're able to keep a stable grip platform of our car in the slipstream using the battery up the inside, and he doesn't really fight it too much, get the car slowed down for the apex, and now we are up into P6 in this race after starting P9 of course on the grid. 1.3 seconds to Thomas Ronhart right now, and you can see just going through the final few corners of the lap, you can see Lucas all over the back of us as well. And Jarno's done a 39, I think it was 7 across the line, so yeah, we're lacking about half a second to pace comparing to the intermediates right now. You can see Lucas goes up the inside, we leave him the space on the inside, hang it around the outside, and now we're just going to try and defend this position without losing too much time. But then you can see he goes for the switchback one more time, but we do get good traction out onto the straight, but we defend it, but not really too hard, to be honest. We sort of squeeze him to the inside, not to make his life super easy, but ultimately, if I wanted to defend it fully, I would have covered fully the racing line on the inside. But now I was starting to accept that the intermediates are just a faster tyre at this point, and it's going to be very difficult to try and make anything happen versus the intermediates. So I was focusing all my attention to the wet compound of tyre runners who are on the same strategy as me, because sometimes you have to fight the battles that are worth fighting. You can see Declan goes up the inside, and we don't waste any tyre wear, any battery, any energy fighting him. We're just looking to maximize our race time here, and that 1.5 second gap to Thomas, we was able to catch up really quickly as well. So you can see our pace in this moment in time was very strong. Thomas decides to box, and I was actually originally called in at this moment, but I decided to stay out because I had an idea, I had a plan to try and get these wet tyres all the way until like the point that we can get the intermediates towards the end in a fast pace. Fun pace as well, because when you're going fast, it's also fun. But you can see already on lap 8, we have caught up to Otis, who was a few seconds ahead of us, and we're able to go clean around his outside while we're on the same compounded tyre. And now we're up into P5 in this race on the wet compounded tyres. And yeah, this was, to be honest, one of my best things I've ever done on this game cycle so far. Not really saying much because the game cycle is not really that much completed, considering Leigh racing is only the second race for PSGL, and yeah, I've only done 3 races in WOR as well, but still, for those 5 races was one of my best stints anyway, and how I was able to manage the tyre temperature and tyre wear is something that I was really happy with. You can see now on lap 10 we're the only person on the wet compounded tyres, and we are still ahead of people who started on the intermediates. And yeah, you can see Jarno and Lucas are now going through Luffield and now onto the old pitch straight. So they're probably 10, 11 seconds ahead of us right now. And yeah, I'm really happy that I was able to stay within this distance to them and was able to try and bring my race back alive by extending this tyre stint. You can see now
what I think is best is we get these tyres to a point that we can strap on inters and go to the end.
You can hear me talking about my strategy. We're trying to get to the point that we can put on the intermediate tyres and then go to the end. So you can see on lap 11, it's starting to close into that point. So now I'm working, I'm talking, I'm communicating with the engineers behind the scenes about the earliest possible lap to box to get these intermediates on. Because if I box now, I'm going to struggle to get to the tyres at the end, no matter what I do. And so you can see right now, I'm not fighting, I'm not losing time, I'm not putting myself in a position
super safe or
that I'm wasting time fighting with intermediate runners right now. Frederick Ramsden go past, but we are still, even though we have spent 13 laps, probably about 11 laps, we've done 13 laps in the race, 11 laps on the suboptimal tyre that is overheating compared to intermediates that are multiple seconds a lap faster, as shown by Jarno and Lucas up the road, even going across the start finish line right now. We're still in P7, so we have salvaged our race, we have brought it back alive by extending these wet tyres, and you can see slowing down the car perfectly to 37 miles an hour.
Good recovery from what happened at the start. I think this, yeah, I have no idea how we're able to get back ahead of the people on the same strategy, basically. That was my goal. There was no point following them. Now we've gained about 6 seconds to that Mercedes runner, about 8 seconds to Thomas, so. But keep me updated on fuel, please. But now I'll have to go like hell, but.
So you can hear me asking to be kept updated on fuel, and that is going to become a problem later in the stint. You can see on the steering wheel the red numbers are indicating how much projected fuel I have left in the race. But for now, our tyres are going to be rapid, and we are back in the fight for being in the top 5 positions in this race. Instantly we go purple here on lap 14 with our fresh tyres. Instantly we go purple in the final sector as well, and we are going to be coming out ahead of the pit lane, ahead of Frederick Rasmussen, who was taking P6, P7 away from us on the road not so many laps ago. So with this strategy, extending the wet, pushing the tyre compound, and just nursing that tyre temperature.
What a strategy. We're back in this.
You can hear me saying live in the moment, we're back in this. So nursing that tyre temperature, nursing that wet tyre has given us the option to extend and become back in the race for the top 5 positions in this Silverstone GP. Frederick Rasmussen 6/10 behind us as we're ending lap 15 here now. We're going to do the fastest lap of the race, and we can see a 34.7, and we are going to be picking up 4 overtakes on this lap. First with Tamas Gao, we're going to go down the inside, get the car stopped, get the car rotated, instantly start thinking about the best traction possible out of the slow speed left-hander onto the back straight, all over the back of Caraton, actually going wider to try not and hit his rear diffuser as we get back on the traction in the slipstream down the inside, and we're going to get the move done even with a purple first sector here. Jake Benham up next, Isfan Pookie to finish off this 4-car train. All over the back of Jake, you can see pushing these rear compounder tyres right now. We are back in the hunt, back in the fight, and we are going just to be cooling the tyre down the straight a little bit, forward thinking through Pop's corner. Look how much more speed we have compared to Jake using the overtake button, and we have got past him right now. Isfan Pookie is up next through Max and Beckett, and you can see just the traction, grip, and the ability of the car right now with the fresh intermediates. You can see Pookie doesn't even defend. We use an overtake button, and now we've overtaken 4 cars in 1 racing lap. And across the final sector here right now, you can see 4.5 seconds of Otis Lawrence up ahead here in lap 16, and we are back in the fight as we're going to be doing another fastest lap of the race as we come across the start finish line.
Fuel update.
You can hear me asking about a fuel update, and yeah, it's going to get pretty dismal from this point onwards. Yeah, there's no winning as a singular person, there's no losing as an individual as well. We gain and lose, and everything within racing is done as a team, and as a team we miscalculated the fuel going into this race with the changeable conditions and the different wind levels that we were running because of the rain. So yeah, really, to be honest, a painful, simple error that shouldn't happen, but I'm also responsible, and I also hold that on my shoulders as well, and I don't just point the blame directly at the team. I also think there was stuff I could have done better in the preparation to equip ourselves the information necessary to maximize the racing potential. And yeah, as a team and not as an individual, we do not point fingers, we do not blame people in a team for mistakes. I can make mistakes, other people can make mistakes, but yeah, so the situation we're in is we're very, 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 very low on fuel going into these final few laps of the race, and you can just see how much we're having to lift and coast. Remember where Freddie is right now, and remember the fact that we were ahead of Freddie after the pit stop phases, and you're going to see where we could have been in this end result.
This rate enough?
But woulda, coulda, shoulda doesn't make reality and does not make results on the paper actually count towards the championship. So with all that being said, we have to try and get this car to the end of the race and salvage points.
Should have had the chance for podium, man. It's just such a simple thing with the fuel.
Yeah, you can hear my voice. I'm not that happy. Yeah, you can hear that I'm not that happy, but always as a competitive person, you always want the best, and we're always pushing. As I already said, it's not to blame individuals in a team, and as an individual myself, as a driver, it's not fair, it's not right to be just completely throwing other people under the bus, because also I can make mistakes, you know. So this is what happens sometimes in racing, and although it's, I can be honest, it's very not fun, not enjoyable, disappointing, painful, to be honest, watching this race back because of what could have been. But like I say, woulda, coulda, shoulda does not make reality. And now we are here on lap 25, and you can see we have got Jack West and Wilson Hughes up ahead, and we are not that far away from the train of cars that would have been putting us P4 in this race. So a podium was unrealistic in the end, even with good fuel, but we could have definitely been P4, P5, as we're going to be all over the back of Jack West. And yeah, to be honest, I have no idea what happened there, but helps us nevertheless. And you can see Thomas Ronha, my teammate, has now got a puncture going on into these final laps of races, and this is why I didn't want to box. This is why I wanted to extend my hard tyre as much as possible. My hard tyre, my wet tyre, my apologies. It's been a long few days. My wet tyre as long as possible, so I can make sure that these intermediates are as fast as the race stint can allow going on into the end of this race. And yeah, so everyone who boxed before is now really at the risk of a puncture, whereas I think me, Frederick, Tom Manley, Declan Barrett as well. I don't know if Declan Barrett boxed or not. But basically everyone who boxed between like lap 12 and between lap 14 or 15 has now got a really good pace, and was actually able to win the race was Tom Manley. So he went intermediates, boxed I think lap 15, and then went to another set of intermediates, and because of that was able to win the race on the final lap as well. You can see we're all over the back of Wilson, just pushing him because how much more grip we have. Lucas Blakely has also got a puncture right now, so you can see the yellow flags coming out of Magnus and Beckett. So we're going to be able to pick up another position if we can get on with it and gain enough time all over the back of Wilson Hughes. And yeah, we're going to be looking around the outside. But yeah, the winning strategy was to be boxing around lap 14, lap 15. We basically did that by starting on the wet, so it was compromised, but we had the right intention and our strategy was in a good way. So for that I'm happy. We just simply did not have the fuel. But with that being said, we was able to salvage P9 in this race, and considering how little fuel we had and how big of a lifting coasting we had to do, as you can see by the video, that we was basically multiple seconds per lap. P4, man. Yeah, you can hear my reaction. You can hear my reaction, it's not that happy, because yeah, Freddie was able to come back to P4, and we were ahead of him after the pit stop as well. So, granted, he had fresher tyres, so I think realistically we could have been P4, P5. He was 2 seconds ahead of Daniel Beresnay, so I think we could have easily been within that 2 second gap, and we could have very comfortably been a P5, P4 position. But again, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and all of that, and all of this, and everything else. But with that being said, yeah, good points nevertheless, and hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you for the next race. Grazie, ciao, ciao, bye bye.